Hi, my name is John Beekman. I am the department manager at the New Jersey Room, which is the local history department here at the Jersey City Free Public Library. I also sit on the board of the Museum of Jersey City History. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about Grace Billotti Spinelli, maybe a lesser known figure in women's history here in Jersey City. Grace Billotti was born in Sicily in 1906 and came to America in 1916. Settling with her family in Baltimore. So the family was in Baltimore until 1931 when her father died, and then she moved with her mother up to this area. They moved to Greenwich Village first and then into Jersey City. She became a social worker as a young adult in Baltimore, working for the International Institute in Baltimore. And also, maybe surprisingly, given her Catholic upbringing, she was an advocate helping people with access to birth control down in Baltimore. As an Italian immigrant, she served as a language interpreter for young women, especially, and others in the immigrant community, which is something she would do throughout her life. I had mentioned before the International Institute, which is something she was involved with down in Baltimore, actually originated in New York and then was opened up here in Jersey City by 1918. The International Institute provided services, social services, to the immigrant communities. And what's interesting about the International Institute is that unlike other sort of progressive era immigrant services, the International Institute really believed in honoring and preserving ethnic traditions. There was a tendency for a lot of the progressive reformers who were trying to help the immigrant communities that they would be best served by becoming American, with a very strict and narrow definition of what American means, So we have sort of this modern idea of a cultural mosaic that, of embracing cultural pluralism, and the International Institute was really ahead of its time in taking that philosophy. And so Jersey City was has always been a city of immigrants, and certainly the Italian immigrant community was very large in Jersey City at that time, and so the International Institute provided services to the Italian community, and she continued her social work with them here in Jersey City and also in Patterson and in the Oranges. Grace's, what we would call Grace's 15 minutes of fame moment came in 1941 when she was drafted to be part of a fusion ticket to run for city commission at the city government against the very powerful political machine led by long-serving Mayor Frank Hague. Frank Hague looms large in the history of Jersey City. We won't go too much into that, but he was a very powerful political boss and ran the city, you could say, with an iron fist. You would not be wrong in saying that. So she was drafted to become part of this fusion ticket, put together by a Republican opponent, but it also was, as a fusion ticket, was made up of Democratic candidates, and she was served as an independent. And so she became the first woman to run for the city government after the suffrage was won. Her identity as a woman and as a stylish and powerful woman really became a technique to oppose the Hague machine, which typically they treated their opponents, very physically, so they couldn't really use the same strong-arm tactics against this woman who was, has real connection to, especially the Italian community. And Frank Hague's power was sort of in the Irish community, but since the Italian community was growing so large and had some political power, he had to navigate that really carefully. And Grace was advised by John Longo, who was another person sort of famous in Jersey City history as an opponent to Frank Hague, and also an Italian American. And so I think that although the slate went down to overwhelming defeat, as any candidate against Frank Hague always did. I think this was yet another sign in 1941 of the weakening of Hague's power. She was really interesting in Jersey City history for taking her identity as a woman in the media, as part of her political activism. And that's a way I think she's sort of ahead of her time. Grace Billotti Spinelli is an early feminist icon of Jersey City who should be remembered for her commitment to service to her community through social work and her brave stance in a brief political campaign against the political power of Frank Hague.